Right. I'm buzzing because we got the lighting a bit better this time. Usually every week we look like we've had a massive bender and we're washed out by like... Okay, I do a bit.
Is it because you've had a massive
Most
bender?
of the time. No. I've done it like what? I've had a bender like before maybe one or two of these podcasts. Not even a bender, just been out. And I was just like, you know what? I look tired and ill in every podcast and I don't think it's very appealing. So just turn the light down a bit and actually we look like how we actually look, which is vibrant and energetic and healthy.
Well, we're back with...
It's just genetics.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
We've not really planned this one.
No.
And I quite like that because that's quite cool. So there was something I wanted to discuss. And we talked about how actually catching up with your mates is pretty hard. Like you've got a couple of mates. Most people, I think, have a couple of mates who they catch up with all the time. In your case, Paul. For me, I mean, I live with them, to be fair. I like uni friends I'll see maybe once every couple of months. And this guy posted something which I thought was really cool, and it was Waffle Wednesday. And the idea is you literally FaceTime, you have a WhatsApp group, but you FaceTime everyone on a Wednesday for like 2-3 minutes, 10 minutes. And he was saying how it's literally their friendships are stronger. They find out about people's problems and shit. And I was that's why I like doing this, because we're able to do that.
Yeah. I think it's like they leave a voice note, don't they? And then they all...
No, this guy was talking about actual FaceTime, which I think is
like
better. Because if voice notes, I have to be in the mood.
Yeah. Like, and also there's like you've got to judge the room with voice notes. Some people love the voice notes. Some people just won't listen to them. I really, if I get a voice note, I'm like, oh man. Like, I'm literally like, I sometimes I just won't press it.
Why though?
Just because I'm like, just like, call me. Like, I don't want to listen to you talk for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It is easy to make a podcast as a voice note.
And then like by the time you've listened to the voice note, you have to like listen to it again to find the details you actually want to respond to. And it just becomes it becomes a project. Yeah. I think voice notes are projects. Stop sending me voice notes.
If you want to do a voice note, come and record a podcast.
Exactly. This is a giant 1 hour voice note.
I remember our uncle going, why are you sending a podcast?
Yeah. Oh, he said, why are you sending a podcast?
Yeah. He was like, don't send me a podcast. Because he used to hate voice notes, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then suddenly he started... Did he send one back?
Well, no, the only voice note I send back is, yeah.
Yeah. But he did... I remember he was sending them and I was like...
Here we go. Pot, kettle.
What's happened in your week?
What's happened in my week? Well, I went to a lovely... surprise. This makes me look like I've got like some sort of boner. What is this?
I've got a boner.
Got my Christmas pants on today.
Yeah.
It's Christmas time, not going to show anyone. What happened? So, beginning of the week was nice. I've been working out quite a lot this week, which has been nice. Gains. Doing a lot more classes. And what classes have I done specifically? I did a robots class yesterday. I did a reformer Pilates class at Flow Yoga.
Humbling.
Which was
humbling.
So good. It was like a...
Confidence in that portrayal.
It was good. Like afterwards, I got out and then I went straight into a strength class at robots. I did like the double because they're like quite close.
Why did you do the double?
Well,
Dom?
I felt really lined up and good. So I was like, I'm going to go do a strength class after. And actually, my body was so much better for it. And I actually was so much more on point technically. So I was quite happy about that.
Fair enough.
Do reformer Pilates, bring it into your gym workouts and boom.
I think reformer Pilates is one of the most humbling things one can do.
Yeah.
They're like, no matter how, unless you do Pilates.
Yeah.
Is it Pilates or Pilates?
Pilates, I think. Is there a little accent above the E? Like a schwa?
I don't know. No. But it's humbling. If you don't do Pilates, you will be humbled.
Yeah.
Like I shake like I've been.
Yeah. But then you walk out and you're like, you feel like an inch taller, which is always amazing. It's like kind of, but then it's kind of like a torture rack, isn't it?
It's like when you do a proper stretch.
Did you know how it was invented?
Probably by someone like Wim Hof.
So there was this dude who went to jail, right? I think his last name was like Pilates or something. Anyway, he went to jail.
For what?
I can't remember. I have to look it up. There's like I learnt this the other week, and apparently he took his prison bed apart and turned all the springs into different like mechanisms and created this form of reformer Pilates.
Because I've always wondered about how someone goes, right,
Yeah.
moving beds, springs.
I think it
different
happened through
springs.
necessity and boredom and just needing something to do.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
but
a
I mean,
cool
I'll look at
story.
in fact, let me look it up because that's exciting.
I wonder how paddle was invented. Because
We'll look that up too. Hang
someone
on. How
went. Someone
was-
went. Looked at tennis and was like, "Fatter bats, and you can smash it anywhere." Yes.
Joseph Pilates even was in the internment camp during World War I, where many patients in the hospital were bedbound. To assist with movement, Joseph attached springs to a bed to help patients engage in resistance exercises without having to stand up.
That's cool.
That's
very
pretty cool. So it's a lot more wholesome than my explanation
Yeah.
of him being in prison and making it out
I
of his
mean-
bed.
Close.
Yeah.
It's amazing what people come up with when they're forced to live with little.
Yeah.
Like some of the
Yeah.
ingenuity is
Well,
amazing.
there's a lot of dance techniques have been created from like injuries. There's a guy called Merce Cunningham who invented a style of contemporary dance because he paralyzed half his body, and so he found ways to strengthen. Oh my god! Wow. Yeah, found ways to strengthen the other half of his body by doing this side and movements that. And exercises that complemented that, and eventually he regained most of his movement. Like Thunderbirds. Hello, Scott.
I'm no longer paralysed.
I used to do this at school. We used to walk around, me and my friends, like this, and be like,
Captain
Hello.
Scarlet.
"Hello, Scott. How are you today?" And we found it the funniest thing in the world. It's not that funny anymore. No, you're on strings.
Oh.
You know when they're like walking around, like
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You did
rate
that really
our
well.
puppet impression. And like their
What
heads
is
just-
amazing.
Oh, I quite like it now. It's funny. It's funny again.
I'm trying to imagine my
Yeah.
Captain Scarlet.
Get to Thunderbird too, Scott.
So, my week, I've been ill. I got sick.
It's not ideal.
And that wasn't fun. You really do appreciate when you get sick how
Yeah.
you took for granted not
Yeah, you
being
don't
sick, like
appreciate
not
your
having a
health
blocked
until it's
nose.
taken away from you.
Yeah, like when you didn't have a blocked nose, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
those days were good. They were.
they were good.
And it's amazing when you're sick. I was thinking about it. I like to look at things as bare bones as possible. You literally just have to accept that your body is like feeling rubbish. You're useless, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to go, okay, this is me for 4 or 5 days.
Do you remember when Mum used to give us first defence? It's like that thing that
That
apparently-
worked.
Well, that's the thing. Does it?
True.
And when does it work? Like it's always like they're like, take it before you get a cold. You're like, how do I know when
Yeah.
I'm just about to get a cold, apart from when it gets cold?
And we're given COVID now, you're symptomatic. Before you're symptomatic is when you're most transmissible.
I think it's the most placebo thing. I think it's like if you take it at the right moment and you don't have a cold, you're like, well, it's first defence.
Well, look at all those soothers. Bollocks, did they do any? Because you
it
did go around
tastes good,
watching.
though.
They didn't. Yeah,
But they
did.
got like glycerin, don't they, which is meant to soothe your throat.
Okay, well, apparently I'm wrong there.
Well, that's the thing. I used to have them with singing.
I just used to smash them like sweets.
Yeah, I did a total of nothing. It was like
Yeah.
It was like the recommended daily allowance is like 3
One
of
every
them
4
or something,
hours,
and you'd
yeah.
be like, I've just taken 12.
I'm on my third pack. I am on my third pack.
yeah.
It's like the vitamin industry. And by the way, there is no structure to this podcast. So we're just going to talk.
We're just freeballing.
ASMR. Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yes, I've reached. So I want to talk about this. I've reached 111 days off the alcohol.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And I want to discuss some of the benefits. And
What are the benefits?
I think there's very little, in a sense. So, a lot of people will be, particularly on Instagram, it's things you can change they're going to change your life, and I think that needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. Alcohol for me, not drinking it, has been great. The benefits have been more energy consistently, more time because you're not hungover on the weekends, and you actually have to figure out what to do at that time. the ability, but getting much more confident in social situations.
Cool.
I don't ever. About halfway through these 100 days, I started to realize I wasn't thinking about, I want to have a drink so I can be more sociable.
Right.
I was just more sociable. So that's been really cool.
That's what like Tom Holland says as well.
Yeah.
He said it was really hard at first, and then eventually you just kind of forget it's a thing.
I think it's more habitual, and obviously this is not a blanket case for everyone. If you're an alcoholic, it's obviously different. I think we're all in London slightly alcoholic around social situations because you're like, I need a drink. But I think a lot of that is habitual. So what I mean by that is having something in front of you when you're with your friends. You're just used to it, like vaping and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I really like the non-alcoholic drinks, because not the mocktails. Fuck off. 12 quid for Shirley Temple.
I know. I
Fuck
can't.
off.
Every time I go to a restaurant and I see the non-alcoholic cocktails, I'm always stunned at how they're slowly creeping up to the price of actual
they're already
drinks.
there. 9 to 15 quid.
Yeah, and you're like,
Well,
you're
I may
like
as
what?
well, yeah.
For some squash.
Well, I mean, if you look at them, they're like, it's a non-alcoholic spirit. I'm like,
Yeah.
the spirit's the bit I don't want. Like the taste of the spirit is make it soft.
When everyone's like, oh, this tastes like this non-alcoholic G&T tastes so like a non-alcoholic. I had that the other night and I was kind of like, I don't see the point. Well, I guess for some people they must feel like, you know, like if that's what makes them feel comforted, or it's like a habit
Yeah.
that they can like replace with that, then great. And if it makes them feel like,
This is the thing I think the internet is so good at doing, is forgetting that everyone's different and that there are so many different reasons for different products. And I am always falling into that trap. I'll be like, well, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, actually, some people need that. And then things I do, people will look at and be like, you sit in cold water for 3 minutes a day. Yeah, stupid.
it's like holding yourself to the standard of everyone else. You know, everyone's going to have different high standards in different aspects of their life. And so if this person's going, this is my standard and everyone should be at that standard, you go, yeah, but you know, your standard in perhaps being like,
I feel this is a dig.
very good in the gym, right? Or like being like lifting 200 kg because you've like done this and that and the other. Yeah, you might be in social situations a complete and utter idiot, and you can't. Your standard sucks. So stop using that as your parameter and start just going down the non-judgmental middle route on everything.
That's a brilliant way to put it, because I think I make comments on this the whole time. The fitness industry, some of our mates are some of the most elite athletes in the world.
Yeah.
Where you and you kind of think, oh, because as you say, they're elite in this, they must be across the board. And then you go out with them and you're like, oh wait, wow. You love it. and I think that's my bad or our bad for going, well, they would be like that across the board. We're not like that across the board. Like, yes, we're very good at fitness, but I can be an absolute muppet in certain elements. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is important.
But we like to use these as flags to like claim that we're you know and I you know, I've been guilty of this sometimes, being like, yeah, I'm really good at this, so this is what I'm going to attach all my worth to.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, the other stuff that you're not so good at like drags you straight into it drags you into a pit of despair eventually.
I think that's why the entrepreneurial journey for me has been so good and toxic, because I was like, I was smart at school and I'm good at sports. I can conquer anything. And then very quickly I was like, holy shit, I'm out my depth, and watching everyone around me do well. Obviously they portray that, and that was a big awakening that shit, you're not world class at everything. You're not even world class at it's one thing. So don't have this ego to think that you be. But on the flip side, I think you should almost have this delusion that you can do anything, because
it's like everyone comparing themselves to, you know, for example, if you compared yourself to Elon Musk as, you know,
what a stupid thing to do.
Like a technology engineer, or, you know, one of the things he's, you know, world class and he's like the richest man in the world for
everything,
then you're gonna be depressed about where you are. But if you compare yourself to Elon Musk in terms of running the 100 meters, for example, I don't know, maybe
he's elite at that.
Maybe he's elite at that. But, you know, I think it's pretty unlikely. I think it's pretty unlikely that he's going to outclass you in probably about 70% of other things.
Yeah.
So it's like you know.
Also, I think when you look at what Elon's achieved, he's a master at setting up the environment to create these ingenious things.
Yeah.
He hires incredible people. He motivates. He knows how to get people to work.
Yeah.
To do it. Like SpaceX has got some of the smartest minds. Like they've got ideas. I think next year or something was what I read. I saw it on TikTok. Was that he's going to have the Falcon X, which is the biggest rocket ever made, and it's going to have one in orbit, and then 12. It's going to take 12 more rockets to fuel that one, so it can then have a fuel tank to go to Mars. But it'll be able to go to Mars in like a fraction of the time.
Wow.
And you're like,
cool.
My startup was just signed a new venue in London. And you're like, oh, but
Yeah, but has his startup signed up for some venues in London? No.
But also at the flip side, he was there once. Like you have to do
He made
this.
PayPal, didn't he?
Yeah. And you have to go through these things that, of course, naturally we're going to go, well, that's not really much of an achievement. But then I go, well, actually, to start your own business is fucking hard.
But they're little bricks, aren't they?
Yeah.
And like you know, one brick doesn't make a house, but you know, if those little achievements add
Stack
up
'em.
to like thousands of bricks, you've got a mansion. You know, and then beyond that you have a castle, and then beyond that, you know, you have a mountain. So it's like,
why do we? I think that's something we all do. Is we look at things that have been achieved. Like people look at Stephen Bartlett, and I'm not going to use him as an example. Actually, they'll look at the Candy brothers who have built that empire of luxury homes, and you're like, it's very easy to go, how the fuck did they do that? And how on earth could I get there? But you never see that they started with a house in Birmingham or something.
Yeah.
They renovated it. And I think what I'm trying to get at is by just doing, like this podcast, obviously we want it to blow up and have loads of people watch it and have this great community. And it's very easy to go, oh, that's going to take so long. Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
If you look at an example I relate to myself, and because like a vegan, I want to drop High Rocks in this podcast. High Rocks, I was like, I'm going after this goal.
like a vegan. So to elaborate on that, I think Ollie sits there in conversation like this, and eventually he'll just be like, High Rocks, and you're just like,
burpees.
fuck. Yeah.
Sled push.
It's a lot.
But when I first started running after spending years of bodybuilding, I did I think I did 2 laps of metabolic, which is 800 meters again. And I was like, I've got nothing left. But then now I'm running 17, 18K with zone 3 heart rate, which is relatively good. But that's from session after session after session.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get to a point where you look back and go, okay, yeah, consistency. Just do it. Just go after something, whether it's a fitness goal, a business goal. Just start doing it, because
I think the question really is how do you maintain it? How do you keep the motivation and the passion in that thing so much as to get to that point? Like how do people do that?
Well, it's a good question, and I can only answer from experience. But for me, in building my business, so to give people who are new to this a bit of background, I've got a startup called Pinkfluence, and it's doing well at the moment. We're growing nicely. It's not like a multi-million-pound company yet, but we're doing well. And I initially started with an app called Pink Culture, which was like Design My Night, and I just couldn't. The fact I'm saying it was like something else was not a good start, and I couldn't monetize it, and I really struggled. But I was so passionate about building the software and the code that kept me going. But then transitioning into the entrepreneurial point of it, which is when you have to go, all right, well, how are you going to monetize it? How are you going to do all these tasks as well as running the business? And you have to. That's where you will face the first bit of friction, like when the honeymoon period of a relationship ends. And that friction can be what kills you or makes you. And for me, it kind of did kill to an extent, because I started going out and getting pissed and being like, yeah, I've got a business though. But I think I'm trying to think of when it didn't work out, I was forced into this period of adversity where I just didn't know what to do. And I think someone described it as, it's like the jobless period where you haven't got a job and you're forced to figure things out in time. And I think everyone should go through one of those, because it forces you, from the greatest adversity comes the greatest innovation. I truly believe that. And I had to think of a solution. And this idea for what Pinkfluence is now came to me, and I started thinking, I think one of the best things you can do when you're trying to brainstorm is go to the gym, go on a run, and then after really start thinking about it, because the thoughts will come so naturally. And I came out and I got really excited about it, came home to my business partner and was like, here it is, shall we do it? Bucket. And we just got on with it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there is that physical motivation begets mental motivation and perhaps some clarity.
Yeah, so by just doing, which sounds like this silly advice, like, oh, you can't just even if it's going and researching or just putting
well, let's go
together a
Hormozy
website.
again. If you want to get rich, sell really expensive things over and over again.
What's the one I sent you the other
and then
day?
sell even more expensive things over and over again.
Here we go.
How?
Yeah. Well,
Please,
to be fair, I think this is where
I just dribbled everywhere.
acclamation. Is it acclamation? Media links. Where's this one? I send so much fucking videos to you. So many. Here we go. If your business isn't making 100K a month, here's what you need to do. Alex Hormozy. Grab a kitchen timer, not your phone. Set it to 4 hours and advertise until the timer is up, okay? Now, this is the important part. You can do warm, outbound, cold outbound, content or paid ads. Don't do all of them. Just pick one until you get to 100K a month. Now, when the 4 hour timer is up and the day is done, do it again. Repeat. Fuck off. Like, I get his point. It's similar to what I'm saying in just do it. Just set yourself time to get. And he's
Maybe you
right.
should. Maybe rather than tell him to fuck off, maybe we should just do it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him actually.
Maybe
Now I
just
say
do
it
it.
out loud. I think it's easy. Yeah. So that
See if
point,
it works. If it doesn't work, he'd be like,
that's-
"Fuck you,
that's-
Hormozy."
I
But the problem
genuinely
is,
think
he
that's
hasn't
the
given
way.
it. He hasn't given it like any parameters of how long you need to do that for.
4 hours.
Yeah, but
No,
like as in
4 hours a day
how many
until you
times
reach,
do you
until
how
you
many-
reach 100K.
until you reach 100K?
Which,
Okay.
to be fair, I think actually now I say it out loud, it's funny, isn't it, when you run through things, how it actually, this analogy he's giving makes sense to just put 4 hours aside a day, which is not that much for solid, focused work. Do it every day. There's no way you won't build towards your goal. There's no way.
Yeah.
And that's what we do with Pinkfluence at the moment. And it's the quote, nothing happens, then everything happens at once. And it's so true. It feels like when you're starting a business or you're training, sometimes you'll feel plateaued and nothing's happening. But then because you're sticking at it, there is 100% chance that something will happen.
100K a week or 100K in general?
I don't know.
Just like 100K.
100K, yeah.
Just keep doing it till you got 100K.
I mean, yeah, I always used to look at that figure when Pinkfluence was struggling and be like, we'll never get there. And we did it this year.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay. And that figure,
boom.
the next year will probably triple that. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
why
when you
when
scale as well, I guess.
well, that's what I was going to say is all those things which seem like, how on earth do I learn to do this?
So I suppose as
you just
the
learn on the
boss
go.
of the business, as CEO, that's your job to work out how to make put your business in a position where you can scale that level of.
Well, here's one that really sort of, when you just have those moments where you're learning something and it just doesn't ever make you go, oh, okay. So there's a stat called customer lifetime value, and it's worked out. It's basically how much money that customer will pay your business for the lifetime they're with you. And I was like, why? Fuck, I need to work this out for the investor. Why do I need to know that? Like, yeah, it's useful, but what's the point of it? And it only dawned on me recently when really having those figures properly was, well, obviously it's important because if the cost per acquisition, the cost to acquire that person is say £500, I used to look at that figure and go, that feels like a lot of money to get a new client on board. But then when you look at the customer lifetime value, you've made £8,500 profit if they make £9,000 from one customer. Oh, okay. Now I see
Quite
the value of that figure. And then you start to think in more business terms. Okay, cool. So if I look at those figures, I can really start to gauge how the business is doing, and they click into place. But for years, all of those figures with raising, I'd be like, what's the point? Oh, okay. And then when it clicks, But that's only from just keeping going. And I think to answer your question on
we're just doing like
keeping
we're just
motivation.
circling back to you just got to do it.
Yeah, there has to be an element of you going, of discipline, of going, you know what, fuck it. Even if this doesn't bring results for the first 6 months, I'm going to keep churning away.
That's
because
interesting.
you have to. You have to. You might get lucky with a YouTube video or something like that, but you have to keep going. And yeah, that's just no one wants to hear that you have to put discipline in. But
saw the first switching subject. Saw the first pictures for the promo for my horror movie that I shot the other day.
What's it called?
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it right yet, but
I can bleep it
I
out.
will be able to say it. Bloodplex.
Bloodplex. Oh yeah, Bloodplex.
Yeah, Bloodplex.
Oh yeah, little dickhead, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's set in Peckham anyway, so.
Where is it going to be viewable for our viewers?
I have no idea. I'm
going to sneeze.
It's going to be a cool short. And then I got another job in a YouTube series. So
Bad
that's cool.
time
Playing
to-
the lead guy. Go on, sneeze. Let it out.
It's not coming.
He's allergic to my success. It really perturbs him.
It's gone. Okay. You know, it's just there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing, though.
That's cool.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's nice. It's nice to like have, you know what, this been really weird because like at the end of the year, I feel like all of a sudden I'm getting loads of nice job offers, which hasn't really been happening as much for the past few months.
Can I just revert back to that quote? Nothing happens, then everything happens.
Yeah,
at
and
once.
literally everything
Do you
comes
see?
at once. Yeah.
And it's when you start to, that's going back to your point on how do you keep motivation. I think having quotes and things like that to revert back to when it's tough, that like,
But do you find that you only start valuing those quotes when things are going well?
yeah,
When they're not, you're like, fuck off. I don't
Yeah.
want to hear that patronising quote about this and that and the other. But when things start happening, you're like, oh, you know what? This is amazing.
it's so true.
It's amazing.
'Cause
And
you
then
see
you start like
Instagrammers-
preaching to people. You're like, don't worry, just be patient.
And
And it will happen. And you're like, and they're like, I've got minus £500 in my account and my life sucks. I don't want to listen to that. I've got no time to waste.
That's why I think you're right, because the past few months with Pinkfluence have been we've been grinding hard, and you see these fucking bellends on Instagram going, I'm documenting my journey to 100k a month, and you're
Yeah.
like, fuck off.
I saw the other day a PT guy going, I've got 675 clients. And he's like, how do I handle them all? Well, find out in my course. And you're like, you don't handle them all.
No,
you have a team of people now
You've
to
got VAs.
handle them. There is no way you have 675 clients and give them all any attention. You would literally get to the end of them. You start on Monday, finish on Sunday, having given every hour of your day sitting there talking to these.
You know, you wouldn't have enough time.
No. Also, 675 people. Imagine having 675 friends coming to you with their problems all at once.
I don't need to imagine. I really do. I've got nothing left. I've got no. But I think that's the thing with courses. I'd like to discuss this with you.
Yeah.
I want to believe that because I know people who sell courses, like our friend Kit, who was on the podcast last week.
And it's a great course, I've heard.
But he's never really trying to. He doesn't feel like he's trying to sell in his content, right? And it's very, very value driven. But these guys, like I saw this guy the other day, and he's clearly doing very well. But he would be like running through sort of how to do, trying to provide value, go and learn a skill really well, and then blah, blah, blah. And you're like, that's quite a vague description. That's very easy to tell someone, listen, go to school, then work.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I want to make a course for being an actor. And what it will
don't
be
you?
is you'll go onto my course, you'll pay like what? Your fee, let's say £100, £50 for the course. You go into it, it will just be a link to Skyscanner. Just go travel.
just go try.
Or underneath, if not applicable, don't. Honestly,
I think
like there is no better acting advice than just go and live.
Well, I think the course thing is, it's very much, clearly there are lots of people profiting off, they're almost exploiting people on Instagram because they're teaching a course on how to make money from teaching a course sort of thing, like how to sell a skill.
Imagine what kind of like that sets up in your brain, that kind of like, I'm making money off teaching a course of how to teach a course. Like you're basically in a room of mirrors, and it's just like.
Well, yeah, and then I guess you've got people who, if they are making results from it, great. But then they're always telling you you're great, and I don't know. I don't know if I can get on board.
I mean,
with
the parameter of
Maybe
greatness, I suppose, in that respect. I mean, look, this is just a massive, whopping generalization, but their parameter from greatness is how many like Lambos they'll buy, or like how many houses they have, or how much money they can just throw at whatever. And to me, that sounds like a very hollow existence.
Well, I saw the most grotesque video, and I think I'm glad I don't know people like this. And they're the
Do we
kind
sound really bitter today? I think we sounded a bit bitter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's videos of these people in clubs pouring champagne into the bowl over their Rolexes, and they'll go, "Yeah, well, fuck you don't have a Rolex," and I'm like,
Cool.
why? Where does that sit as this is?
Why
a
does
cool
that bring
thing
them
to
joy,
do?
though?
Why does it? Yeah.
Why? And I think that the reason why it brings them joy is because they feel like they're better than other people or something, or like that, this whatever that Rolex represents is their joy, and but then they've then shot themselves in the foot, because the moment that the Rolex is taken away, that joy is gone. You then stand to fall quite heavily. If your money goes, what do you have?
Well, this is the thing. That's why I love finding joy in people and experiences, like going and doing cool stuff. That's why London's so cool. They've got so many cool things. Like tonight, we're going to the quiz room, which is a room of quizzes, but they got like buzzers and shit. And I'm like, doing that with people, great.
Sounds
like
fun.
That's awesome. And it's the kind of thing I would sort of be like, oh, that sounds boring. And I'll give you an example. Someone I was talking to, who was I talking to recently? Someone I met at a Jubel event, and they were like, oh God, we're going to an escape room. I know it's really lame. And I was like, that is not lame. Escape rooms are amazing.
Yeah.
And it's this weird, like, why would that be lame? That's so fun.
Yeah, I think it's the process of having to put effort in to a night maybe makes them feel like it's lame. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I'm trying to break it down. By the way, you're looking very fashionable today. Do you want to let the viewers know where your jacket's from? Because it's quite cool.
This is from Zara.
That's very nice.
Everything
I like
I'm
it.
wearing.
Yeah, your whole
Thank
outfit
you.
is
Thank
looking
you
on
very
point.
much.
No joke.
I'm single as well.
He's single, ladies.
Do you want some family stories?
Let's go.
Should we have some family stories, guys?
Family stories.
Family stories. So we're going to try and make segments in this podcast, and we've got our first one coming up, family stories. And I never tell Dom. So Mum, she does a good job of sending me the family stories.
He likes to shock me with stories about our family that I just don't know how I'm going to react to. So here we go.
And Mum's
I
done
should
very
really
well.
ask her so I can dump them on him.
She's at least we know if this podcast doesn't get watched, we'll always have Mum watching it.
Should we bring Mum on the podcast?
Yeah, 100%.
That would be
100%.
so funny.
Mum, we're currently recording a podcast, and we'd like to invite you on as a guest. Thank you, please. So, Mum goes, I have a family story. When we told you about the birds and the bees, we had a really good age-appropriate book to help us educate you both Dom and I. At the end, we asked you if you understood, and you both said yes. Later that day, we went shopping, and Dominic says in a loud voice, Mummy, what's a penis? She goes, clearly we got something very wrong.
What did we understand from that, though? That's the thing.
Why would you randomly be walking and go, what's a penis?
Do you remember when we were like kids and we watched, and everyone was watching, it was like Christmas time, and everyone was watching Kevin and Perry Go Large. And we would just laugh because we were like trying to like come across like we thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I mean, it's a funny film, but I genuinely remember just laughing because everyone else was laughing.
I just remember the zip popping scene and the sick.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And then the floater.
It's a floater! A floater! And I watched it back a couple of years later. This is a bad story.
What?
I watched it. I had a girl from uni who was like the fit it girl come over to my flat. Emily, how you doing? And I put on Kevin and Perry, and it was hilarious. We had sex to it.
Wow. That's very good. To be fair, that is viewing.
Anyway, back to the family stories.
Anyway.
Also, when potty training Dominic, I asked him once, where do you do a poo now? To which he replied, Maidenhead.
I was just so wise for my age.
And then this is one, my mum, which maybe explains why my voice never really deepened. When you were 3, you somehow found my contraceptive pills and ate them all. I ate all of the contraceptive pills at 3.
God. What
I rang the doctor in a panic, and once he'd managed to stop laughing, prick, he said no damage had been done, but you may speak with a high voice for a while. What, 31 years?
I found the reason of your voice problem.
Yeah, that's why my voice has had problems.
That's it.
Fuck you, mum.
Yeah, how dare you?
Jesus.
That's funny.
So yes.
We don't have seasonal sweets this week. I think seasonal sweets, you know, there's so many Christmas sweets. We're just going to burden them next time on the podcast. We're just going to just unload a trove of them.
Yeah, we will. And
Yeah.
what other... would you like a sweetie?
Also, I think the light setup is so much better. Look how much better we look. We look fierce. We look sharp. It complements the darkness of our hair.
Now, Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland, come on.
It is single-handedly the best experience I have ever had
You know, that could be my Christmas present.
in my 31 years. That's a good point. Fair. Okay, done.
Okay.
I'll get it for you for Christmas
Ollie
and
hasn't
birthday.
bought me a Christmas birthday present for about 2-3 years, maybe
Well,
3 years.
That's what you get when you get my birthday present out of a skip.
Well, we were like 10, so that's fine.
You were driving around. You were
Right,
like
okay.
18.
Whatever. Anyway, we were broke at that time.
I'm running a startup. I have no money.
This year, I bought Oliver a lovely holiday
Did you?
for his birthday. Yeah, to where was it? That place in Italy,
Rimini?
Rimini.
You didn't pay for that.
I paid you 300 Great British pounds to go and enjoy a holiday in Rimini.
To where I set my PB in Harrocks.
Exactly. It's my fault.
106.
Pizza gains.
Watch out,
I'm
Hunter.
telling you,
Watch out.
pizza gains.
No, I didn't
Maybe
know.
we should get Hunter on the podcast.
Piadina. Hunter will come on.
Yeah. Let's get Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter will come on. Hunter's a legend.
Is he still the world champion?
He's the world record holder. He's not the current world champion.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, who cares? Like world
Yeah,
record.
exactly.
It's like
until
Usain
that's
Bolt.
beaten.
If someone beats Usain Bolt, like they can claim they're the
Hunter
best.
was telling me, so the world record for viewers in High Rocks Pro is, I think, 53 minutes.
Right.
Which is Hunter's. And he was telling George and I, actually that's a lie. He was telling George, who's my mate and trainer, that he did a sim before the Worlds recently where he got 49 minutes. He's
Oh my
he's a
god,
beast.
that boy is mad.
Shout out Hunter. He's also, what I rate about Hunter is first time I met him, he'd just gone and done a race with George Heaton, who's the owner of Represent. They'd set some really fast time. Hunter's, I think, helped train him. And he was just having beers and went out that night and got absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
Rightly so. And it was nice to know that, to
We're all
humanise that the world champion is living, and obviously he trains bloody hard, but he does let his hair down now and then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also on that note, you know, just hearing Mike Tyson recently, sad times that he lost to Jake.
That was bullshit.
Well, yeah.
I
think
feel
it was
robbed.
totally rigged.
I feel robbed that
The amount of times I saw like him pull punches in that little, like in those clips, or like when Jake Paul literally Tyson gets him with a hook right in the face. Yeah. Clearly it shook Jake Paul. He goes back to the edge of the ring, puts his hands down and goes,
yeah.
Mike Tyson, any Mike Tyson, that Mike Tyson should have just gone in and went, bosh, 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 you little shit. Don't pull a face at me, you're knocked out.
I think if you look, there's another time where he dodges a punch and normally he would have banged him straight, but he holds, you can see he goes
but
like
you
that.
see in this exchange, like Jake Paul's going like a bell end like he does. And then all of a sudden, Mike Tyson goes, as if they've got some weird agreement that he's like gone too far.
I think with something like this is I feel stupid like a lot of people for being duped by the Netflix pre-show where they show fast clips. The camera's doing that around Tyson and it's like the same clip played over and over, but you're like, look how fast he is. He's a pensioner. He's 60 basically.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to be having nowhere near as much energy and he's against a guy in the peak.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he was a pro boxer. We were all duped into thinking that he was even a fraction of that. And that's what annoys me about these fucking Paul brothers is I also admire them for it. They've created this image where they're hated by so many, but it makes them a fucking lot of money.
Yeah.
And we fall for it every time. We're like, oh, maybe Tyson will win. Like 100% that was rigged.
Yeah. They just know that pissing people off keeps people talking about them.
And it works because we're talking about them on a podcast.
But then, the integrity there is you kind of go to yourself, well, that's, again, we're being bitter, but I think like when did integrity become like something that's just,
when did you
no
have
one
to
cares?
forego it
When
to
did you have
climb
to
up the
forego
social
integrity?
ladder?
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of super
almost feels
famous
like you have
people,
to, you constantly being in a state of like inflammatory, chaos is lauded above.
Yeah.
And it might be a reason why the political state of everywhere is just slowly descending to chaos, because people are getting so used to just being in a state of chaos and confusion.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Jake Paul plays a character. He's even admitted that, and you see him in the build up to Netflix. He's like,
he's so chilled out compared to what.
Yeah, he worked damn hard for the boxing, whatever, and credit to him. But if you look at the house and things he's got, it's like something only you could dream of. He's done phenomenally well. And he said he used to be getting into all the drugs and being a bad boy and all of that. And I think he was hated for that. So I think he's clearly gone, well, I'm hated anyway. And now he even said, now I've got fans. It feels weird.
Yeah. People like him actually like him because they respect him.
But that's what I mean. That's where I think it's okay to question, and we're not being bitter. It's to question the state of all of this, because it feels like every major company like Netflix, they're doing things with an agenda. They're exploiting sort of.
Well, they're just looking to make money.
Yeah, but it feels like is that just how life is?
Yeah, and they're
that
just riding the wave. Netflix are riding the wave of Jake Paul. That whole thing would have been nothing without Jake Paul.
Yeah.
And Mike Tyson. Let's not take Mike Tyson out of the equation. Oh my God, just watching the story of how Mike Tyson got into boxing and stuff.
He's amazing.
He'd been in jail or something crazy like 7 times by the time he was like 13. Like like bonkers like stories, and boxing was the thing that basically set his life up. But then my point is that apparently he said the other day that, while he was like world champion, while he was doing well, or while that whole period was going on, he was on narcotics and things like that.
Really?
And actually he feels a lot better as a human where he's at now, because he's not doing all that stuff. I mean, granted, I think he still says he does like mushrooms and things.
Yeah. Well.
But he's not doing all that crap. He's not undermining his life anymore. And he feels better now than he did then, being the world #1 and being the champion heavyweight of the world.
It's an interesting topic that I've always looked, because it does feel like every single superstar who blows up ends up, and not everyone, but obviously you're presented with it. Like Tom Holland struggled with alcohol, Johnny Depp's cokehead, Leonardo DiCaprio's cokehead, rock stars all fucking love their drugs. Amy Winehouse died of drugs.
Did you see how Chad Michael Murray, the 90s star Chad Michael Murray, who was in like Cinderella Story?
Oh yeah. What happened to him?
Was it the OC as well? No, that wasn't him.
Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray goes in this like a podcast or interview. He goes, give me one star who's managed to not fall off throughout their whole career. Give me one of them. One name. They were like, no one could think. And then someone just said Britney Spears, and they were like, okay.
Bald.
No. Yeah, she went. I mean, she's still kind of going through it.
To an extent, you can completely understand why, because the amount of, you've got millions of people interested in you, watching your every move. You've got photographers outside. Like that must be. I mean, I would get a bad. Someone the other day commented something nasty on Instagram, and after I went on a show as well, I got some people say some negative things, and you notice those over all the nice things. And you can imagine.
I do a career where, I remember doing Rocky Horror, and we're on YouTube still. Like the whole live performance from when we were in Sky and blah, blah, blah is on YouTube. I don't know how it's still allowed to be on there. And it's almost annoying that it is, because the view count's probably making money and we're not making anything from it. So I need to ask about that, because there's a lot of views. Anyway, whatever. But we're on this like a big thing. And, there's loads of really nice comments, like amazing, blah, 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 all these things. And then someone just puts like, oh, well, it's shock that they got a Rocky who couldn't sing. And I literally was just like,
why do we take those things? Like, why do we take over everyone saying nice things? Why is it that we take the nasty thing one? Like, it's like 0.1%.
Because you there's no like criticism to the other stuff, it's just like they're great. You know, it's hollow. It just feels like, yeah, cool, thank you, great. It's nice to hear. But also, if someone comes up to something that's like a tangible thing that you could be bad at, you start questioning yourself, because you're like, it's a bit of criticism that actually is validated by like actual
feelings of
like, you know, when someone says I can't sing, for example, it validates all those years of, you know, doing this career and, you know, having your top off and stuff like that, thinking that the only reason you're getting jobs is because you look good without a shirt. And it just crushes you a little bit, because you're like the amount of work I put into that suddenly gets totally unvalidated, and you suddenly go, oh God, should I have been putting more work from that time I've used on my body into that singing?
Well, it's like, I remember you got a comment from someone who was being nasty, and then you commented back saying something like, don't think that's very nice. Yeah. And he was instantly like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't think you'd reply.
He sent me a picture of a GIF of a man walking off a cliff. And it was like a cartoon GIF, and it said, and then he put it underneath it, "This is your career." And I just was like, oh, that's a real shame you think now. That was really upsetting. And he was like, oh, I'm really sorry, I just wanted to get your attention. And I was just like, yeah, like really, like what's wrong with these people?
I think it's very hard for me to think that way, because I just can't imagine. I don't comment negative things. The only thing I don't comment really on social media, but now I've started commenting nice things because I think it's great. It's just when you think something's good, comment. So I really struggled to get in the head of someone who would do that. Why? Maybe I'm not in a position where I've had shit going on in my life to warrant that, but why? What? It makes you feel better, obviously, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, the more. What I will say is, the more your business pops off and the more you get into the limelight as this and that and the other, you'll find very quickly the more you're opening yourself out to criticism. And the one way you have to deal with it is you just don't. You just leave it. You leave it alone, because if you look for it, you'll find it. Like if I look, they say to actors, don't read reviews, because the worst thing you can do is is read a review, because it's, you know, it's someone's opinion. But you know, like mum will send me like a review, and no, good or bad, and I'll be like, oh, just don't want to read these. Like they're
Mum,
so stop.
Enough.
Yeah, it's really bad for you to read reviews, because because you'll take it too literally. Yeah. You know, like I remember like the Tom Jones thing, the What's New Pussycat show. I read a review that was like, he was trying to imitate Tom Jones or something, and he didn't quite hit the same tones, and I was just
obviously like Tom Jones.
Also, I was like, I'm not. But you know, there's some songs that it actually helps to kind of dive into that.
Hang on, you trying to imitate someone you're playing?
No,
idiot.
But that's the thing though. It wasn't about Tom Jones, pop star. But I found that a lot of songs were a little bit easier if you did start doing a few little imitations, because it's technical. You know, the reason he's so good at singing is because he's so technically amazing. Yeah. You know, and also he's got a big voice and he's been doing it for years. He's got so much experience. No, he never came. He was doing The Voice or something, or doing a tour. And his family came though, and his manager. So it's really random.
You got a musical essentially about you, and you're like, nah.
But I think someone wrote a musical before about him, and he came in it and didn't like it, and so potentially it'd be the same situation. I don't know. Anyway, I found it really fun.
Well, yeah, it is interesting just how fragile we can be. And I would love to know some techniques around working on that, not letting it affect you. Because, I got literally just a comment recently, and I was like, oh, that stung. You realise they get you. They really sting. Like,
You gotta be. Yeah, I think it's about being aware of the things that could get you, and that being aware that some people are more intelligent than you think. Sometimes they know exactly what to say to like drive the screwdriver in. Like I've been in conversations with people who I know are trying to hit my buttons with certain things, and I think they think because of the way we look, we're not on the ball with it. We don't notice, but you do, and you go like, oh, I see what you're doing, and you're gonna keep going until and then I always throw in something a little bit like to make them aware that I know, and then they go like, oh, and they really freak out.
Yeah, it's interesting what calling someone's bluff.
Yeah.
Do. Interesting.
Yeah. What was your quote earlier you said to me when we were outside White City House?
It's unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments, and I think that's an interesting one to go on to, because that was a Tim Ferriss quote, I think, And I think that sums up for me a lot of my qualms and issues with people have been from something I could have just talked to them about or said, listen, hey, I didn't appreciate that, rather than bottling it up, and the resentment builds over time and you end up disliking this person. And it just, I look at all the recent quarrels I've had, and luckily I don't have many, or if any. It's not always the case. Like the flatmate issue I had, like I did confront that. And it just turned out.
Yeah, but that's your quality of living.
Yeah.
You need to do that.
But yeah, I think sometimes it's harder to, it feels very difficult to approach. I'll give you an example. Someone who's perhaps not consistent in their behaviours. I've got friends, for example, who have been very inconsistent. We all go through periods of that.
Well, people have noticed that about me, you know, like particularly Emily. She'll say the same thing as you, which is, you know, you say something that you don't mean to make other people feel more comfortable, when actually the thing that will make people feel more comfortable is you just said what was going to happen, or the truth.
Textbook people pleasing, yeah. It's you come up with a white lie. I'm not saying you specifically, you do that.
Yeah, but I've got much better in the past 2 weeks. Like
good.
But actually in the past like few months, I guess, like there's been times where I've dropped the ball, but like honestly, I'm very good at going, this is what is happening. Yeah. Like work around it. Like I'm that's what I'm going to do.
It's there's nothing wrong with A, speaking up, and B, setting boundaries, healthy boundaries. And I think for me this year, I've been on a journey of trying to set boundaries for my own peace. And like I've explained with you would sometimes, rather than saying to a friend, hey, listen, I actually just don't feel like coming out tonight, sorry, you'd come up with a white lie.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I was able to give you the whole lecture on that, is because I started just saying, no, I'm not coming out. I just say, because you don't need to lie. Like they're not going to be like, fuck you, man. And if they do,
screw
then
you, dude.
Like, whatever. Like, it's your piece, it's your life. And I think just setting healthy boundaries is one of the most important things for your own sanity and peace. And when you're dealing with someone who you feel you can't set boundaries with or vocalize those boundaries, that's where I struggle.
Remove them.
Yeah, and that's normally you can.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
Don't touch the fucking mic.
Sorry, it's really difficult in those situations because you've got to do it, and then eventually, you know, they'll see it, and if they want to like compromise, then that's on them. But if they don't, then
I think a lot of the time, that's why this unspoken expectations of premeditated resentments is so true. We build up a picture of how they're going to respond. You don't fucking know how they're going to respond. So I've done that with recent things. And I I wanted to speak to a friend just about something that had been bothering me in an interaction. And I spent a couple of weeks really, oh God, they're going to react in such a hostile way. And when I confronted it, the person was just like, oh yeah, no, fair enough. I'll sort that now. And I was like,
usually that is what will happen. Because, you know, people are mainly rational, but I mean...
And that was my bad for not confronting it earlier.
But it is a really simple solution in the end. Like, it is just to be upfront and do the, you know, and don't compromise if it's something that is going to hurt you or make you feel bad. Unless it's really worth it. I don't know. Actually, no, it's not simple at all.
No, it's interesting. It's tough. It's tough. It's very tough. It's very easy to listen to advice and mentally masturbate about it. But
we're
actually,
also an hour away.
Yeah, that's fine. But actually taking the advice and implementing it it's hard. It's hard to confront people, because I think, especially for me and you, who have always been textbook people pleasers. So you're right. I would do the same thing. Is overdo. It's like overdoing compliments or.
Because you want a reaction that
you want them to know. Hey, I'm a good person.
Yeah, but you want a reaction to meet your level of enthusiasm.
Yeah,
you're expecting, so you're creating. You know,
there we go.
Resentments,
and it's true, because I find something that happens with me, for example, and other people, is you start to go, oh, they haven't responded to my message, or how fucking ridiculous, or well, no. Most of the time, people are not responding because they're busy or they've missed it. It's normally not that personal. And that's something I realised recently. So a lot of my mates are fucking busy. They're really busy and doing stuff. So they're not ignoring you. They don't dislike you. Stop being so main character syndrome and realise they have their own life. And you'll have a lot less resentment.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're at the point where I'm going to. Right. Let's do this. Right. Just filming another It's Just Genetics podcast with Ollie over here. If you have any suggestions of things, topics you'd like us to chat about, or even guests you think would be good on our podcast, drop them in the little box here, or any seasonal sweets that you think are absolutely unmissable.
So I want to finish on a topic which I'm going to think of in the next 3 seconds.
You don't need to.
Things that really grind my gears. And this week's selection of things that have ground my gears are the fact that I found out this week that this emoji is not a prayer. It's 2 hands high-fiving. Incorrect. Change it, Apple. The next thing that grinds my gears
Grinds the gears
is when random jingles just come into your head. So today, bear in mind, I don't think they've had this advert on the radio or TV for many, many years.
Right.
Is washing machines last longer with Calgon.
Such a good one.
Why is that in my head? That's really grinding my gears.
Yeah.
And then the final thing that grinds my gears is how available vapes are.
Oh my God.
They're everywhere. You walk down the streets, there's 50 people vaping. The shops have them on all windows. So you'll go into a shop and you're trying to not vape, and you're like, yeah, I'm just this, please.
It's like
and
$5 for
vape.
£2, and you're like, I'm in.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like
in.
you're literally buying groceries and you're like, and 3 vapes,
That's
please.
so nice.
So
well, thank God you're banning them, government.
no, they're banning the disposable ones. Reusable is the
but
key.
reusable are lame. No one needs
Anyway, we're going off to a very cool restaurant I talked about last week with Swiss Butter. Tom's not been. And they do a new Wagyu burger.
We'll let you know how it goes.
But that is all.
That is all from
It's just genetics.
It's better singing than me.
All right. Should we do any social clips?
Nah. Let's go.
No, hang on, wait.
Done.
Wait.
What?
Move. This week on It's Just Genetics, we talk waffle. Now you do your bit. No, look at that camera, you twat.
We explore how Pilates was invented.
What's another one? We find out what grinds my gears.
And we get very bitter about many things.
and then, what's the other one we did? What else did we talk about?
We dive gracefully into all of our insecurities.
And we forget our seasonal sweets. Catch us soon.
See you there.
On YouTube.
See you there.
And social media.
And TikTok.
Apple Pods.
TikTok.
Tick.
And TikTok.
And tickety tockety tick. See you there.
Peace out, motherfuckers.
Foliage.
Foliage.
Yes. This is the best one we've ever done.